What's up, everybody? This is Jacob from myPAbox. We have here Mr. John Graffeo. I'm gonna introduce him, give a little background, but really he's gonna introduce himself. John, take it away.
Okay. Hi guys. My name's John Graffeo. I've been a practicing physician assistant for about 40 years now. I graduated from PA school in 1979, and I've worked in multiple surgical disciplines. I graduated from Cornell. Initially I was very active in the State Society, New York State Society, and after probably about 25, 30 years, I got involved in faculty, and I just recently retired from a full-time faculty position as a clinical coordinator at York College in Jamaica, New York, and where I was also part of the admissions committee and other administrative committees at the college.
Wonderful. So we have a well-rounded PA over here that's going to give you guys a lot of advice right now. So first question I'm going to ask him is, how did you apply to PA school in 1977, and how is it different from applying now?
Okay, well, it's pretty funny. I bet you none of you have been to a library in a long time. There, you had to go to the library. You had to go to a library and ask the librarian to help you find information if you even had ever heard about a PA school. I think at the time I applied to PA school, there might have been about 50 in the country.
Was there internet then? No Google at the time, guys. Yeah, that's how far it was.
There was no internet. There was telephone. There was a rotary telephones, no less, not even a push-button phone.
Yeah.
And there was no book that you could go to. You literally had to go to the library and do that kind of research. How is it applying now? Now you've got the internet. You've got over 280 schools in the country that you can apply to. You've got multiple computer access means, as PAbox is, to help you get into a PA school and help you get organized, because let me tell you, you need to be organized to get into PA school. There's just so much information you need to submit to some of these schools, and there's no other way to do this.
So I have a question number 2.
Okay.
So given that you were on the admission committee for the York PA program, you obviously dealt with a lot of students, a lot of applicants, and a lot of interviewers for the program. So this scenario you probably can answer, and this is all for you guys. So you have 2 PA applicants that have the same GPA. What makes you pick one over the other?
If I had an applicant in that situation, 2 applicants in that situation,
which I'm sure you came across plenty of times.
We came across it every year. You would, sometimes you're just looking at a piece of paper. So it's very difficult to make that kind of a decision. And my recommendation would be to bring both students in for an interview. But if I just have a piece of paper with their application and their GPA and their personal statement, I'm going to be looking at if they took advanced classes in sciences, what their background is prior to even applying to PA school, where they did their volunteer or shadowing kind of work, and if they have any medical experience from a prior profession. Lots of people were med techs, where they drew phlebotomists, they did EKGs, they worked in doctor's offices, they were extenders.
And they obviously have that background that you're looking for, that exposure.
You need to find somebody who's got that background, who's maybe a little bit more mature and knows how to deal with the public. It's very difficult to deal with people when they're sick.
Yeah, I can tell you that from my experience myself. But moving on to question number 3. So if you're a pre-PA applicant and you did poorly in a science class, how do you make yourself a stronger applicant?
Well, obviously, if you did poorly enough to get an F in the class, you would need to repeat that class, because no PA school is going to accept you if you got an F in any of the basic sciences. If you got a C and you're trying to prove to the admissions committee that you are a serious applicant, most of the admissions that we worked at, we would look at if the student had taken an advanced class, like a 300 level or 400 level class, microbiology, biochemistry, because those kind of classes will prove to us, if you did a very good grade in those, that you really did understand the basics for you to get a good grade in an advanced class. So my suggestion would be not to keep repeating a basic class.
So this is actually going to the live we did a few days ago. This goes to the point that I was trying to make with my partner Sergio, and one of the things that I mentioned there is what does the interviewer want to see from the applicant in terms of when they did poorly in a class. And a lot of people think that they want to see a higher grade, or that's not really what they want based on what he just said. They want to see that you can excel in the subject. That doesn't mean they're asking you to retake the class. That means they want to see that you're excelling in that topic. In order to prove that point, it's not necessarily means retaking the class.
Right.
It means taking a higher level course, which means the foundation that you've learned, you know it well enough.
And the other thing you need to think about is if there was a personal issue going on in your life at that time, put that in your personal statement. This is what the personal statement is for. You need to explain your life and what your goals are. And if you had a death in the family, you had a new baby, you had a car accident, it was 3 weeks before the end of the semester, there's so many things that factors that can affect you guys. There's no reason for you not to put it in there. You need to be honest in that personal statement.
Of all this, I think that's the biggest piece of advice that a lot of people lack in. They don't know how to structure a personal statement and actually let their negative experiences, or not negative experience, but something that could have tarnished their GPA with something that happened that can be, it's just tragic.
You have to realize
you don't know. So mention it.
The admissions committee knows life is going on out there. These things happen. We've all been through disasters in our lives, and they affect the way you take a class and whether you can complete something.
Absolutely.
There's no reason. If you can document why you did badly, it doesn't give you a good excuse, but it will at least break somebody's heart and be able to understand why and when you retook it.
Got it. Thank you for that. So the last question we have is, if your application is submitted and you're called for an interview, how should I, as a student, prepare myself for the interview?
Okay, so most of the time you get at least a week's notice. Lots of places will say, hey, we got a cancellation, can you come tomorrow? But I know we used to do that if the student lived close by. But most of the time you guys are applying nowadays across the country to places. You need to make plans to get on an airplane, get a hotel room, find an Airbnb. But before you do that, you need to be prepared. You need to make sure that you have several copies of your CV printed up on nice paper. It sounds silly, but these are the kind of things that people look at.
Detail. Pay attention to
details.
detail.
Make sure you are dressed in business attire. I've had students come in t-shirts and shorts for an interview.
That's pretty sad.
Totally inappropriate. This is a profession. You're trying to
That's sad.
impress me, and you need to be
They may
ready.
wanted to stand out. That's why they came in a
that's
t-shirt
not how
and
you
tank
get
top.
remembered. Be on time. Give yourself extra time, even if you have to sit in the office a half hour ahead of time. Be there, be prepared, and be polite to the administration when you walk in. There's usually a secretary at the desk who you know is doing more than one job, and she's probably got 5 or 6 interviews going on at the same time. Give them your name, tell them you're here for a 10:30 interview or whatever time it is, and take a seat and try to relax. It's scary because now you're facing people who have been in this kind of situation multiple times, and if you're lucky, you've also had several interviews. One of the good things is to practice questions, practice answering the questions. with your friends, with a PA who you know, who has been through this process, because they know what kind of questions the interview committee is going to ask. And the nicest thing you can do at the end of the interview is send a thank you note to whoever the professors that interviewed you with. Always a nice little gesture.
That's a nice touch at the end. I didn't do that.
They remember you that way.
Gotcha. So, listen, these are some of the questions that we're going to be going through. And we actually just did an Instagram post right now that we're going to be interviewing Mr. John Graffeo soon on a live. So answer some of the put your questions there, comment, and we're going to do a little Q&A after our live interview also. And we're going to be announcing the date for the live interview soon. So stay tuned, guys.